The alarm screamed through the Valtorian royal palace as plasma fire lit up the night sky. Princess Ilara stood at the observation deck, watching her world burn. 3 months ago, the Krexin Empire had declared war on every peaceful species in the galaxy. Now they were here, at the gates of the last free world. Her mother, Queen Marana, stood beside her, hands trembling. The royal guard had fallen. The planetary defense fleet was destroyed. Evacuation ships were already lifting off, carrying what remained of their civilization to the stars. "We have to go," Ilara said, pulling her mother toward the emergency transport. "Where?" Marana asked, her voice hollow. "Where is left to run?" Before Ilara could answer, the palace doors exploded inward. Krexin shock troops poured through, their armor gleaming black, weapons raised. The Queen's personal guards formed a desperate line, but everyone knew it was over. Then the ceiling collapsed. Not from enemy fire. Something punched through from above, landing between the Krexin soldiers and the royal family with enough force to crack the marble floor. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, Ilara saw him. A human in battered combat armor stood in the crater, absolutely still. The Krexin opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts that could melt through starship hulls struck his energy shield, which flickered but held. He moved. Ilara had never seen anything move that fast. The human crossed 20 meters in a heartbeat, his blade singing through Krexin armor like it was paper. He fought like a storm given form, every motion precise and brutal. In 30 seconds, 12 elite Krexin soldiers lay dead or dying. The human turned to face them, and Ilara saw his face through the helmet's transparent visor. Brown eyes, a scar across his jaw, exhaustion written in every line. But when he looked at her, something softened. "Danny," she breathed. "Princess," he said, his voice rough. "We need to move. I've got a ship waiting." "You came back," Ilara said, moving toward him. Queen Marana grabbed her daughter's arm. "Ilara, who is this? Why is there a human here?" More explosions rocked the palace. Danny's head snapped towards the sound, already calculating. "Explanations later. My ship can hold 30 people. Choose fast." But Marana wasn't moving. She stared at the human warrior, then at her daughter, and something clicked in her expression. "Who is he?" the Queen asked, her voice cutting through the chaos. Ilara looked at Danny, at the man who had crossed half the galaxy through a war zone to reach her, the man who had taught her that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their aggression. It was that they never abandoned the people they loved. She smiled, despite everything, despite the fire and death around them. "The man I married," she replied. The Queen's eyes went wide. "You what?" Danny's tactical display flashed red. "Contact in 90 seconds. Your Majesty, we can discuss family matters on my ship or die here. Your choice." Marana looked like she'd been struck by lightning, but decades of ruling a kingdom under siege had taught her to prioritize survival. She nodded sharply. "The staff. The children in the East Wing." "Already extracted," Danny said, moving toward the shattered window. He pressed a device on his wrist, and a sleek black spacecraft shimmered into view, hovering just outside. Its hull was scarred from atmospheric combat, but the weapon systems were very much active. "Cooper, we're coming hot. Clear the landing zone." "Copy that, boss," a woman's voice crackled through his comm. "But you've got Krexin interceptors inbound. We've got maybe 3 minutes before this place is glass." Danny turned to Ilara. "Can you fly?" She understood immediately and wrapped her arms around his waist. He fired his grappling system, and they shot through the window together. Marana followed, a second later, grabbed by one of Danny's team who had rappelled down. The wind screamed past them as they swung toward the ship's open cargo bay. They landed hard. The bay was packed with Valtorian civilians, wide-eyed and terrified. A human woman with short red hair and pilot's insignia waved them forward. "Strapped in or holding on, we're leaving now." The ship's engines roared to life, and they rocketed upward just as the palace exploded below them. Krexin artillery had found its mark. Ilara watched her childhood home, a structure that had stood for 3,000 years, collapse into rubble and fire. Danny's hand found hers and squeezed. The ship punched through the atmosphere with Krexin fighters on their tail. Plasma bolts streaked past the viewport. The human pilot, Cooper, flew like she was dancing, every roll and dive perfectly timed. But there were too many enemies. Shields at 40%, Cooper called out. Danny, I could use a miracle right about now. Working on it. Danny moved to a weapons console and started typing commands faster than Alara could follow. Lisa, you ready? Another human voice. This one from somewhere deeper in the ship. Born ready? Firing in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as it launched a spread of missiles. But these weren't normal weapons. They split apart mid-flight, each piece deploying holographic projectors. Suddenly there weren't 30 Krexin fighters chasing one ship. There were 30 fighters chasing 50 ships, all apparently scattering in different directions. The Krexin formation broke apart, confused, firing at ghosts. That's our window, Cooper said, grinning. Hang on. She pushed the engines to maximum, and they jumped to faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into lines, and they were gone. In the sudden quiet, Queen Marana finally found her voice. Elara, explain. Now. Elara looked at Danny, who nodded. They'd known this moment would come. 6 months ago, I was on Kepler Station for the treaty negotiations, Elara began. The Krexin attacked, killed the delegation. I was separated from my security team, trapped in a collapsing section of the station. Danny picked up the story, his voice matter-of-fact. I was there on leave. Wrong place, wrong time, or right place depending on how you look at it. Found her pinned under debris with Krexin soldiers closing in. Got her out. He fought them off alone, Alara said. 12 of them. He was wounded, bleeding, but he wouldn't stop until I was safe. We hid in the maintenance tunnels for 2 days while the battle raged above us. He kept me alive. Kept me sane. Marana's expression was unreadable. And you fell in love. We talked, Elara said simply, about everything. Our worlds, our lives, our fears. He told me about Earth, about humanity's history, all their wars, all their mistakes, but also their resilience, how they never give up, how they protect what they love, even when it costs them everything. Danny shifted uncomfortably. He'd never been good with emotional conversations. When the rescue ships finally arrived, Elara continued, I didn't want to leave him, but I had to return home, had duties, responsibilities. So you married him in secret, Marana said, her voice flat. We married on that station with a human chaplain before I left. It was real, Mother, legal under both our laws. I know you wanted me to make a political match to secure an alliance, but the universe was already at war. Those alliances meant nothing. And you, Marana turned to Danny, her royal presence suddenly very apparent despite their circumstances. You married my daughter, a crown princess, and said nothing, did nothing. Danny met her gaze without flinching. I said goodbye, figured that was the end of it. She had a kingdom. I had a war to fight. But you came back, Marana said. Got word Valtoria was under siege. Knew she'd be there, in the palace, probably doing something brave and stupid, because that's who she is. Danny's jaw tightened. Wasn't going to let her die alone. You crossed enemy lines for her. Your Majesty, I'd cross every line that exists for her. Did cross them. Broke about 15 military regulations and probably started a diplomatic incident. Don't care. Cooper's voice interrupted from the cockpit. Hate to break up the family meeting, but we've got a problem. Long-range sensors just picked up a Krexin battle group. They're tracking us. Danny was moving before she finished speaking. How many ships? 47, including 3 dreadnoughts. They must really want us dead. Elara felt her blood run cold. A single Krexin dreadnought could level a planet. 3 was overkill on a cosmic scale. Can we outrun them? Marana asked. Not for long, Cooper said. They'll wear down our engines before we reach any friendly territory. Which is currently nowhere, by the way. The Krexin control everything within 20 light-years. Danny stood silent for a moment, his tactical mind working through impossible odds. Then his expression changed. Lisa, where's the nearest nebula? The Crimson Veil about 4 hours at current speed. But Danny, that place is a death trap. Navigation is impossible, and the radiation will fry our systems in minutes. Humans have been navigating death traps since we figured out how to build boats, Danny said. Plot a course. You're insane, Cooper said, but Ilara heard the smile in her voice. Plotting now. The next 4 hours were tense. The Krexin battle group gained on them slowly but surely. They fired long-range missiles that Cooper had to dodge, each maneuver costing them precious fuel and speed. Ilara helped tend to the wounded Valtorians in the cargo bay. Many were injured, some critically. The ship's medical supplies were limited. A human medic named Jake worked alongside her, his hands steady, even as the ship shook from near misses. "You're good at this," he said, watching her suture a deep gash. "My mother insisted I learn," said a ruler should understand every aspect of her people's lives, including their pain. Jake nodded approvingly. "Smart woman, your mum. Danny's told us about you. Didn't mention the princess part, though. Just said you were someone worth fighting for." He said that. Actions speak louder. Bossman volunteered for this mission the second he heard Valtoria was hit. Command said it was suicide. He said he didn't care. That's when we all volunteered too. Ilara looked around the cargo bay. 5 humans, including Danny and Cooper. They'd come here knowing they might die. For her, because Danny had asked them to. "Thank you," she said quietly. Jake shrugged. "That's what family does, and Danny's family to us." The ship lurched violently. Red emergency lights flooded the cabin. "We're entering the nebula," Cooper announced. "Everyone hold on to something. This is going to be rough." The view screen showed a vast cloud of crimson gas and stellar debris stretching in every direction. Lightning arced between chunks of frozen matter. Radiation warnings shrieked across every display. Danny took the co-pilot seat. "Lisa, kill the engines. Go dark." "That's crazy. We'll drift." "Exactly. The Krexin sensors can't penetrate this soup. If we go silent, we're just another piece of debris." Cooper hesitated for only a second before complying. The engines died. The ship went silent except for life support. They drifted into the crimson darkness. Through the view screen, they watched the Krexin battle group arrive at the nebula's edge. The massive dreadnoughts hung in space, their weapons powered and ready. "They're scanning," Danny whispered, as if they could hear him, looking for engine signatures, power readings, anything. Minutes crawled by. The Krexin ships held position. Then one of the dreadnoughts fired into the nebula. The blast lit up a section of the gas cloud, vaporizing ice and debris. They were firing blind, hoping to hit something. "They're going to grid the entire nebula," Mirana said. "Eventually they'll hit us." "Not if we move first," Danny said. He was studying the tactical display, watching the pattern of Krexin fire. "Cooper, on my mark, fire maneuvering thrusters only, short burst, barely enough to change our drift." "That'll light us up on their sensors," for half a second. "But look at their firing pattern. They're working from the edges inward. If we move to a section they've already cleared, they won't look there again." "That's assuming they think like humans," Cooper said. "They think like predators. Predators don't double-check empty ground when there's new territory to search." Another blast lit up the nebula, closer this time. "Now," Danny said. Cooper fired the thrusters. The ship drifted sideways, moving deeper into the area the Krexin had already bombarded. For a moment their sensors lit up. A Krexin dreadnought turned slightly toward them. Then it resumed its forward search pattern. They'd missed it. "Holy hell," Cooper breathed. "That actually worked." They waited in the darkness for 6 more hours while the Krexin methodically searched the nebula. Eventually, apparently convinced their prey had been destroyed or had escaped through some other route, the battle group withdrew. Danny didn't give the order to restart engines until they were long gone. "Lisa, plot a course to the outer rim. Somewhere the Krexin haven't reached yet." "Already on it, but Danny, we need supplies." "Fuel, medical equipment, food. There's a neutral trading station at coordinates I'm sending you, run by a Quellic merchant named Zix. Owes me a favor." "You know everyone, don't you? Helps to be friendly." Marana had been quiet through the entire ordeal, watching Danny command his crew with calm efficiency. Now she approached him as the ship jumped back to faster-than-light speed. "You saved us all," she said, simply. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty. Stop calling me that. If you're married to my daughter, you're family, even if I wish you'd asked permission first." She almost smiled. "My husband, Elara's father, died fighting the Krexin. He was brave, strong, loved his people. You remind me of him." Danny looked uncomfortable with the comparison. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Don't be sorry. Be yourself. That seems to be enough for my daughter." Marana glanced at Elara, who was resting against the wall, exhausted. "Take care of her. She's all I have left." "With my life," Danny promised. The trading station appeared 3 days later, a massive structure of connected modules and docking bays floating in the darkness between stars. Ships of every design crowded the approaches. Click, Vaxian, even a few human vessels. The war hadn't reached here yet, and merchants were making fortunes selling to both sides. Danny hailed the station. "This is the Nightingale requesting docking clearance. Tell Zix that Collins is calling in his marker." A raspy alien voice responded. "Collins, you stubborn human, 3 years I wait for you to collect. Come to Bay 7. I have what you need." They docked smoothly. Danny left Cooper and Lisa with the ship, while he, Elara, and a small security team ventured into the station. Marana insisted on coming, despite Danny's protests. "I need to see what's left of the galaxy," she said. "Need to understand what we're up against." The station was chaos. Refugees filled every corridor, species from across the occupied territories. They'd fled the Krex in advance with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Children cried. The wounded lay on makeshift beds. The air stank of desperation. "This is what the war has done," Marana said quietly. "This is what the Krexin have created." They found Zix in a storage bay. The Quellac was a massive creature, 8 limbs and a shell covered in trade symbols. His eyes, all 6 of them, gleamed when he saw Danny. "Collins." "You look terrible. War agrees with no one, yes. Need supply, Zix. Food, medical equipment, fuel cells. Enough for 30 people for a month. This I can provide, but payment you owe me. Remember Theta Station. I pulled you out of that plasma fire." Zix's shell plates clicked in what might have been laughter. "Yes, yes, but that was then. This is now. War makes everything expensive." Danny's hand moved to his weapon. "We had a deal. Peace human. I honor my debts. But I have something else. Information you need. Talk." Zix pulled up a holographic display showing star systems. The Krex in advance is not random. They search for something. Ancient technology, very powerful. Rumor says it's a weapon that can destroy stars. "That's insane," Elara said. "No civilization would create something so destructive." "The precursors did," Zix said. 10,000 years ago they vanished, but their technology remains. The Krexin believe if they find this weapon, they will be unstoppable. Danny studied the map. Where? 3 possible locations. Here, here, and here. Zix highlighted systems, but one is very interesting. The Voss system. Your people, human, have a research station there. Very secret. Very protected. Earth Command wouldn't hide precursor technology. They'd destroy it. Would they? Or would they study it? Try to understand it? Use it against the Krexin? Zix's eyes gleamed. "I hear things, Collins. Your command knows about this weapon. They're racing the Krexin to find it." Danny's jaw tightened. If this was true, if Earth Command was playing with precursor technology, they were endangering everyone. Precursor artifacts were unpredictable, dangerous. The last time humans had tried to activate one, an entire research team had vanished. Why tell me this? Because you are different from other humans. You care about more than winning. You care about survival, about protecting the innocent. Zix gestured toward Elara and Mirana. You risk everything for one Voltorian princess. This tells me your heart is true. If anyone can stop both the Krexin and your own people from making a terrible mistake, it's you." Danny turned to his team. "Load the supplies. We're leaving in 20 minutes. But as they headed back to the ship, alarms blared through the station. The crowds in the corridors suddenly panicked, rushing for ships. "What's happening?" Marana demanded. A Vaxian merchant ran past, screaming, "The Krexin! They're here!" Through a viewport, Ilara saw them. Krexin warships dropping out of faster-than-light speed, dozens of them, surrounding the station. This wasn't a random patrol. This was a targeted strike. Danny grabbed a station security officer. "How did they find us?" "Tracker," the officer gasped. "Someone on the station must have signaled them." Danny's eyes narrowed. Zix? They ran back to the storage bay, but Zix was gone. In his place stood a Krexin agent, its armor gleaming. It held a detonator. "The Princess and the Queen," it said in perfect human English. "The Empire will reward me greatly for your capture." Danny moved fast, but not fast enough. The Krexin pressed the detonator. Explosions ripped through the bay, the blast wave, throwing them backward. The viewport shattered, and suddenly they were staring into the vacuum of space. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, sealing sections of the station, but they were cut off from the ship, trapped. Danny's comm crackled. "Boss, we're pinned down," Cooper said. "Krexin boarding parties are everywhere. We can't reach you." "Get the civilians out," Danny ordered. "That's priority 1. "But sir, that's an order, Cooper. Save who you can." He cut the connection before she could argue. Around him, his team looked grim but determined. They were soldiers. They knew what being cut off meant. Ilara grabbed his arm. "There has to be another way." "There isn't, but we can buy time. Get as many people off this station as possible. Then we fight," Mirana said, picking up a fallen guard's weapon. "I may be a queen, but my people didn't survive 10 generations of war by hiding." Danny looked at this alien queen, this woman who had just lost her world, now ready to make her last stand on a doomed station. He smiled, despite everything. "You really are her mother." Krexin soldiers burst through the far door. There were hundreds of them, armor gleaming, weapons raised. Danny checked his ammunition. Maybe enough for a dozen kills. Not nearly enough. But humans didn't need enough. They just needed to be willing to fight anyway. "For humanity," he said quietly. "For Voltoria," Ilara added. They opened fire together as the Krexin charged. The first wave fell, but more kept coming. Danny's team fought like demons, every shot precise, every movement calculated. They fell back through the station corridors, using the narrow passages to bottleneck the enemy. Bodies piled up, both Krexin and human. Jake went down first, a plasma bolt through his chest. He died, still firing. Lisa lasted another 5 minutes before a Krexin blade found her. She took 3 of them with her. "Fall back to the command center," Danny shouted, reloading. "We can lock it down, buy more time." They ran through smoke and chaos. Explosions rocked the station. Through viewports, Ilara saw ships fleeing, blasting away from docking bays. Cooper and the Nightingale were among them, engines burning bright as they escaped the Krexin blockade. Good. The civilians were getting away. They reached the command center and sealed the blast doors. Danny immediately moved to the control systems, his fingers flying across alien interfaces. Mirana helped barricade the secondary entrance, while Ilara tended to their wounded. "I can override the station's safety protocols," Danny said. "Vent the atmosphere in specific sections. Slow them down." "Do it," Mirana ordered. He executed the command. Sections of the station suddenly exposed a vacuum. Hundreds of Krexin soldiers were sucked into space, but it was a temporary measure. They'd adapt, bring in vacuum-rated units. "We're not getting out of this, are we?" Ilara said quietly. Danny looked at her, this princess he'd married in a moment of beautiful insanity. "Probably not. I'm glad I met you." "Me too." They kissed, there in the command center, with death at the door. For a moment, the war didn't exist. There was only them. Then the blast doors exploded inward. A figure stepped through the smoke. Not Krexin. Human. He wore Earth Command uniform, Admiral's insignia gleaming. Behind him were human soldiers, their weapons trained on the Krexin forces. "Stand down!" the Admiral ordered. To everyone's shock, the Krexin did. They lowered their weapons and stepped back. Danny stared. "What the hell is this?" The Admiral smiled coldly. "Captain Collins, you've been busy. Stealing classified information, deserting your post, violating direct orders." "You're working with the Krexin," Danny said, pieces clicking together. "The attack on Valtoria, this station, you allowed it." "Allowed? Captain, we orchestrated it. The Krexin are quite reasonable when you give them what they want. In exchange for the Valtorian territories, they've agreed to peace with Earth." Mirana's face went white. "You sold us out. Politics, Your Majesty. Earth's survival comes first. Your people were going to fall anyway. We simply negotiated favorable terms." "And the precursor weapon?" Danny asked. "That's what this is really about, isn't it? You made a deal. The Krexin get the occupied territories, Earth gets the weapon." "Smart boy. We'll share it, actually. Together, Earth and the Krexin Empire will be unstoppable. Peace through superior firepower." "You're insane," Ilara said. "Precursor technology is too dangerous. It could destroy both your species or elevate us to gods." The Admiral gestured to his soldiers. "Take them. The Krexin want the Princess and Queen as trophies. Collins will stand trial for treason." Danny's hand moved toward his weapon, but 20 rifles were already aimed at him. His team was down to 4 soldiers, exhausted and wounded. The odds were impossible. Then the station shook violently. Alarms blared. The Admiral's Kamak exploded with panicked reports. "Sir, unknown vessels dropping out of faster-than-light speed. Dozens of them. Krexin reinforcements?" the Admiral demanded. "Negative, sir. They're engaging both our forces and the Krexin. I'm reading Vaxian signatures. Quellic, Tharian, even some independent human ships. It's a whole fleet." Danny moved to a viewport and stared. Ships of every design were pouring into the system, firing on both Krexin and Earth Command forces. Leading them was a modified freighter he recognized. "Cooper," he breathed. His comm crackled. "Told you we don't leave family behind, boss. Called in every favor, every contact, everyone who owes humanity a debt. Turns out a lot of species are real tired of being sold out." The Admiral's face went red. "This is an act of war." "No," a new voice said over the comment. This one carried authority that made even the Admiral pause. "This is justice." An image appeared on the command center screens. An older human woman in civilian clothes, but Danny recognized her. Senator Patricia Cruz, head of Earth's Civilian Oversight Committee. "Admiral Webster, you're under arrest for treason, conspiracy, and crimes against sentient species. Earth Command does not negotiate with genocidal empires. We do not sell out our allies. And we certainly don't experiment with weapons that could destroy the galaxy." "You have no authority here," Webster snarled. "I have the authority of 300 elected representatives and 4 billion citizens who just learned what you've been doing. The vote was unanimous, Admiral. You're done." Earth Command soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. Then, one by one, they lowered their weapons and stepped away from Webster. The Krexin forces, suddenly without their human allies, tried to fight. They were cut down by the combined fleet in minutes. Webster reached for his sidearm, but Danny was faster. One punch dropped the Admiral to the deck. "That's for Jake," Danny said, "and Lisa." Later, on Cooper's ship as they traveled toward Earth, Mirana stood beside Ilara and Danny, watching the stars. "What happens now?" the Queen asked. "We rebuild," Danny said, "not with weapons or treaties built on betrayal, but with trust. Your people, mine, all the species, tired of war. We form something new, something better. An alliance built on respect," Ilara added, "not fear." Senator Cruz had already broadcast the truth across every human world. The reaction was fury, followed by determination. Earth would help rebuild Valtoria, would stand against the Krexin properly, with honor. It would be a long war, years probably, but humanity had never been good at quitting. "So," Mirana said, almost smiling, "my daughter married a hero. I married a man, Elara corrected. The hero part was just a bonus. Danny shifted uncomfortably. I'm not a hero, just someone who couldn't walk away. That's what makes you one, Marana said. She extended her hand. Welcome to the family, Captain Collins, officially this time. He shook it. Just Danny, please. Just Danny, she agreed. The man my daughter married, the human who changed everything. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. The war was far from over. But for the first time in years, there was hope. And sometimes that was enough.